that, like proper preparation prevents poor performance. And so there wasn't any sort of like conversations beforehand for, that person to get the correct information. Like it's kind of
Right.
more like now it's urgent that you deal with it as opposed to dealing with it before it got to this point.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, he is still a long ways off from worried about foreclosure.
Of
Right? He's
course.
in the
Yeah.
danger zone, but he's still a long ways off.
Yeah.
And it's a couple things I share with him. I said, number one, the thing you have to learn about entrepreneurship is it's never a straight line. It's not like working a job where you underperform, overperform. You know, there's a check coming every 2 weeks, ideally, right? That's what people think is going to transpire. But there's some truth to that, right? For periods of time. I was like, there are going to be months where you're winning, where you're just the cash is flowing. I was like, it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. And you need to bank your money when things are going good and invest your money back into your business or invest in things that will give you ROI because you're going to need that when things go bad, when things go south, and they're going to go south. The best of us. I mean, I was just reading an article here on Instagram. It's interesting. I knew the story about FedEx, but I'd forgotten about it. Where I wouldn't recommend anyone to do this, right? But his way of investing his money was to go to the casino. Took out last couple dollars he needed, went to the casino. FedEx going under. The CEO says, "I know how to play blackjack. I'm gonna go to the casino. I'm gonna get up 35,000, and I'm gonna keep my business alive for another week or a year, whatever. So I can do. It was another week, so I can secure the funding I need to grow my business." I'm like, you, every company you read about, learn about. I mean, even PPLSI, right? If you really do a deep dive into the story of the company, there were a couple times early on where it was like they looking at the furniture, getting ready to sell it to keep the company alive. You know what I mean? Like
It be
that's a
like
like,
sometimes though. You
yeah.
gotta take the bitter with the sweet. Like
So
it, it's not like you said, it's not a straight line. It's not always gonna be, oh my
mm,
God, this is so amazing. Everything's
yeah,
great. Yes. It's not gonna be that.
mm-mm. And so he needs to number one understand that, but number two, it's like you're laying on the tracks. You see the train coming. Don't just like what definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so what I told him, I said, look, man, you need to be creative about this. Number one, you have a house that I quite frankly, I believe short-term leasing would work really well. Simply because of where it's at. It's surrounded by hospitals and it's
Hmm.
surrounded by a bunch of corporate offices. Right? It's not the best neighborhood in the world, but it is surrounded by hospitals and corporate also. I know what I'm thinking right away. I'm thinking about some of these people who travel in from the airport and literally come into the area and they're spending money. Like I just paid for someone's hotel in that area. Um, for our previous event. So I know the type of people who are flying into town from the airport, and that ends up being one of their stops
For the boot camp or for the other one?
for the boot camp.
Okay.
So that's the pit stop, Dearborn, Dearborn Heights.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to post up in Detroit. It is what it is. Some people do, but Detroit, the Dearborn Heights, Dearborn, that area is a happy medium, right?
Yep.
Um, you have people who are doing temporary work for a lot of these small businesses, and like I said, you got an entire hospital system. Like there's what is like 3, 4 hospital systems all in that area where he's at. I know there's got to be some traveling nurses in one of
Oh,
those
absolutely.
ecosystems, right?
Absolutely. Mhm.
And I was like, bro, this is what I would do if I were you. I would start prepping that house for that. Do what you got to do to fix whatever aesthetic issues are going on in the home. It doesn't sound like anything is really wrong with the unit that he's in. It sounds like there may be some plumbing or foundational issues. But the bottom line is he's drowning. And it's a slow drowning that's taking place on him.
Absolutely.
You need to reset. Get into a place that's less expensive. Get into a place that um that you can manage more easily while you have all these different things going on. Don't sell the house because it's an asset. Turn it into an income producing asset. And if you don't want to manage it, there's you. There's a lot of
Well,
different
that's
people.
the whole reason why he was getting it was
Yeah,
to generate income
right.
from the property. Like that was the original reason for securing it because it has 2 units.
It's time.
So 1 unit, yeah, 1 unit for, and it generating income, and then 1 unit for, living in. But you could actually do both units, rent them out.
Yes.
And honestly, if you did a Section 8 for a 2-1, you could get, depending on what that person's voucher was, anywhere from 11 to 1,300, just depending on that person's situation, that person's, or if you just want to do cash tenants, you could do that too. But like if you're wanting something that's steady, you could do the agency tenant. So there are options. It's just making
Yeah.
sure that you research and that the unit is going to be able to pass an inspection for an agency. You have to have,
I'm
um,
like, he should do that right now.
yeah,
That's the
you
first
you
thing you
have to
say.
have, certain things like I'm actually doing a unit right now on Tireman. We're in the beginning stages of getting it ready for an agency tenant. The windows are good. Only 2 of them are cracked. Just did my lock change yesterday. Got my guy coming on Saturday to do the trash out. Got another guy that's going to do the outside, trim the bushes and all that. And then I got my other team, that's going to do the interior work. So
Yeah.
everything's, in phases. So, it's definitely doable.
Yeah. Man, there's no need to drown this. Find another place that's, fits the budget. Set up a contract with the tenants of the tenant will be moved into his unit. The tenant is downstairs and be like, look, any repairs over 500, I got you. Any repairs under, do what you got to do and I'll help you. But
Right.
that's, set the contract up like that. Because you're working a type of business that is so high, the business is so high maintenance, you don't have time to be running to that residence every time something goes wrong with the sink. Or every time,
Delegate,
or,
delegate.
or
Yeah,
yeah,
delegate.
yeah. So, um,
Delegate. Yeah.
yeah. So that's what I told him. But
Well, I think
oh
some
no,
of it too is making sure that when you're drowning and that, you have something like that going on, you have to um examine your spending habits as well, because, sometimes some people are spending on things that they really shouldn't be, you know.
this is true. The other thing too is people. This is one thing entrepreneurs have to get through their heads. Um, no one cares as much as you think they care. And like you don't win as an entrepreneur by trying to keep up with the Joneses. You just don't. Like a lot of times entrepreneurs put themselves in a real bad way because they're trying to keep up an image or they're trying to have a certain type of look or they're trying to almost like be like a celebrity.
Mhm.
And I understand if you have a business where that's required, right? If that's the business. But a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners out here, that's not their business. They're just so dead set on having certain things to appease and look good for others. And that's just not how you do it. Like if you
It's not
talk
conducive. It's not, and it's not income generating activity, honestly.
no, if it's yeah, if it's not income generating activity, who gives who
Exactly.
cares?
Yeah. And
Um,
I try to keep up with the Joneses when you can't even keep up with the Smiths. I mean, real talk. It's like,
yeah,
like you said, nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear your tonterías and puterías. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear your excuses. Nobody wants to hear your sob stories. Like basically, it's a doggy dog world, and you have to get in where you fit in. And when you are trying to build a business up from the ground up, you have to get in the trenches and you have to roll your sleeves up and be ready to put in that work.
yeah,
And that's just the bottom line of it. And it's not for people who are like easily emotionally shaken. Like like you said, you're gonna have some times where you're like, oh my God, why me? You know,
yeah,
um, all the time where you're like, oh geez. But you gotta just power through it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, even when you're earning money, you need to live broke because you're investing that money. Like, that's the
Mhm.
thing that people understand. Just because as an entrepreneur, you're knocking down 250, $500 million a year in revenues plus, or whatever the case may be, don't think that that entrepreneur is financially well off. If they are investing their money back into their business, then no, they don't have disposable income like that. Like, they should
Or
not be
your
traveling.
expenses are too high. Like if you have your expenses and your expenses are too high, then you're not going to be able to save any money. You're not going to be able to reinvest in your business. You're just not.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's anyway.
So
They
the
got to stop
topic
starving the baby. Anyway,
So the
so
topic today, I'm super excited about talking about the topic because I don't have that experience or those tools in my toolbox at all. I don't.
yeah,
And so I'm super excited to hear about it and to learn about it and to just get the blueprint in the game as to how working in corporate America help prepare you for your journey in entrepreneurship, as I know there's a
yeah.
lot of jewels and gems that you're going to be dropping today.
Well, let's do this right then. Okay. So, welcome everyone. This is Juwan Buford. This is Miss Adrienne Ponce. And look, here's the thing: we are not gurus. We are gurus. We are entrepreneurs out here in the world, building our own businesses, helping other people level up. And we are about this life, and we're about taking aim at the goal of helping not hundreds but thousands of entrepreneurs achieve financial independence and will create wealth through building businesses. This is what we do. So glad that you're here. We look to bring you content week in and week out from other entrepreneurs, from other professionals, from other people who can pour into your business and give you the technical expertise, knowledge, strategy, tactics, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, to live your best life. So glad you're here. All right. With that being said, corporate America, it's interesting. I think a lot, I think it's 50-50. I think part of the reason why corporate America benefited me is because I knew going in I didn't intend to stay, and that's important because when you're in corporate America, I'm talking about the banking, financial services industry in particular, right? Which are the two peers where I spent most of my life, um, my professional life, and there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of cultural and psychological wearing on you that entrepreneurship is for, especially now it's coming up. If when I was coming up, if you said I want to be an entrepreneur, how people interpreted that is that you were a bum, that you couldn't keep a job. It's not
Really?
sexy like it is today, right? If
That's
you
how
said
people interpreted it, that you just wanted to be a bum?
that you're a bum, you can't keep a job. That
Okay.
you don't have the discipline, the wherewithal to stick with a job and create financial independence, or not create financial independence, because very few people in corporate America even think about creating. They just want to have a house, have a car, go on vacation every now and again, take care of their spouse, be taken care of, whatever, right? They have this corporate America, especially when I was coming up, was about aspiring to have a middle class life, which was a good life, right? When I was coming up. Um, and so you were okay with not achieving a certain degree of wealth or financial independence. right? You were okay with that. I'm going to trade my time, my skills, and my talent for this company, build up a retirement plan, because pensions were disappearing at the time as well when I came into the marketplace, the workforce. So that everybody was being switched over to 401ks. And so people were accepting, I'm going to set aside some of this money, they're going to match, and I'm going to sell off to the sunset, have my house, my picket fence, et cetera, et cetera. And at some point when I turn 50, I will amass enough and be comfortable enough where I can start buying a boat and, buy a couple nice cars and et cetera, et cetera. And that was going to be it, right? That was it. I came into corporate America with the attitude of I want to win. I want to win and I want to be free. That's important, right? So I had to kind of set that framework up for what's about to come next. So I remember when I was working in the banking industry, in particular, I remember advice that an attorney that I've known for a number of years, he would give me periodically. And he said, stay there and learn what they know, learn their systems, learn this, learn that. It's not time yet. It's not time. And I ignored this attorney twice in my career, right? You hear me talk about how I raised over $1 million in new revenues with, at the time, Standard Federal Bank, now to multiple buyouts, Bank of America. In about a 3-month period of time, they gave me a $50
gas card.
they gave me a $50 Marshall Fields gift card.
Oh, wow.
The gas card came from the broker dealer. But anyway, that was years down the line. But they gave me a $50 Marshall Fields gift card. And then you already know how the story goes. I quit. Without any savings, no nothing. It was like the craziest thing on earth. And being a single parent was crazy. But in respect, while I was there, though, and part of the reason why I quit is being in corporate America allowed me to see how big the pie was. It allowed me to see, because while I was there, I was talking to the mortgage originators. I was talking to the investment bankers. I was talking to the executives. See, when you walk to a bank, the people that you see in the bank are not earning good money. If you can see them, they're not earning anything. It's the ones you don't see. And because of my work ethic and my willingness to do more than what other people would do around me, I ended up being in spaces where they were at. And so I knew what the real salaries were. I knew what real investment bankers were earning. That's part of the reason why I quit. I brought in $1 million. Where they messed up is I had met the investment bankers. So I know what they would have earned on that $1 million. In 3 months, I know what they would have earned. And it wouldn't have been no $50 Marshall Fields gift card, right? And sometimes there is an advantage to being in corporate America for that reason, because as an entrepreneur, we always say is what you don't know that can, it's not what you know, but what you don't know that can kill you. And it's also, if you don't know certain things, you don't know how big the pie is. You don't know how big the opportunity is. A lot of entrepreneurs come up short because they're playing small, because they really don't know how big the pie is. And I hear someone, I got this little thing, or I got this little business, that other. It tells me right away when I hear that language that they don't really know what's out here for them. Working in the banking industry, I had a chance to meet people who owned hotels. I had a chance to meet people who were buying up like 15, 60 properties all at one time. I had a chance to see the type of accounts that were being opened, the kind of money those in the accounts. And then I got to see the people who own those accounts. And I had a chance to see and talk to them and see they weren't all that intelligent. They weren't all that smart. So, I mean, they all had great work ethics, make no doubt about it. They were working. That was one thing they had in common. But being in that environment helped me out with that. Also, being in that environment too, the mindset that I had, I remember like it was yesterday. I do remember this. I was sitting down and I was a workaholic even there because I wanted to level up. That's always been consistent with me. You put me in any type of environment or space, I'm gonna start taking inventory and figuring out ways in which I can level up. It's just in my DNA. It's how I do it, how I distinguish myself. But anyway, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, what if I wanted to start up a bank? So I'm looking at the phones. I'm looking at the offices. I'm looking at the manager. I'm looking at all the personnel. I'm looking at the IT and the technology. I'm looking at all these things. And I remember sitting down thinking for a moment. When this bank was started, however long ago it was started, somebody was sitting around having to deal with all those things in order to build this system, right? Somebody had to generate the wealth, create the infrastructure to make all this happen. Somebody started this, or somebody started this, right?
Right.
And sitting there, I was able to look and see that being a business owner is more about just selling a product or a service and paying myself. I began to see entrepreneurship and business ownership as building an asset that feeds people, that employs people, that provides opportunities for people, that provides incentives for people. I didn't need to be told that you needed HR, that you need marketing, that you need branding, that you need IT, that you need tax and accounting, you need financiers, you need or investment advisors, that you need all these different things to make the magic happen. I was sitting down and I was touching every aspect of that while I was working there. And so I think that's why when I quit and I began my entrepreneur journey, um, I had a much more mature approach and appreciation for it, because I'd had that conversation with myself. And so, I tell a lot of people that I had a conversation with some young men a couple weeks ago. And one of the young men said to me that I had a job, but I just quit because I'm not earning enough. They're not paying me enough. I'm worth more this, that, and the other, and I should get paid more. And I just kind of looked at him. I said, well, why should you get paid more? What can you do? And he kind of looks at me, and I'm like, I'm being real. Besides the fact that you think you're the special, what skills have you developed or inculcated? What talents do you have above dribbling a ball or rapping or singing? I'm just being real, or looking cool.
Did you say dribbling a ball, rapping, or did you really say those? Wow.
Yeah. He was looking at me for a second like he wanted to get froggy. I'm like, bro, I'm a 200-pound plus man. You don't want to do it.
He didn't
Don't.
want to get saucy.
You don't. You don't want me to feel like my back is
What
against
was
the
his
wall.
response to
He,
that
he, he was
question?
itching and getting froggy and getting upset and getting emotional. And I'm gonna touch on this emotional piece.
Okay.
But he settled down once, once we had that moment that men gotta have where we eyeball each other and size each other up. He settled down.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I just told him, what have you been doing where you feel like it? Look, most of the jobs I took, even my first quote unquote corporate America job, I knew I was being underpaid. The very reason I laid out, it was just that $50 Marshall's car was like slapping the face. I was like,
Yeah,
But
that's
I knew I was being underpaid the entire time I was there. But I understood that I'm here to earn as I learn. I'm here to earn as I on your dime as I learn how to build a business, as I learn about systems, as I learn about um, contracts and documents and arrangements and agreements and all these different things, right? I was there soaking it all up. So far as I was concerned, the bank was just paying me to be educated as opposed to me paying for the education, right? And that's why being in that space was beneficial to me, because my curiosity, right? And then once again, once I came from behind that retail, from in front and that retail side and got behind and listen to the conversations that were really happening, right? Listening to the KPIs, listening to the statistics, listening to how they look at volume and productivity and all this fun stuff. Like, I didn't quite understand everything I was hearing, but I knew this, okay, this is really what it's all about right here, right? And so I learned that. The other thing I learned is, look, corporate America, particularly, and I'm just talking about when I got started in the banking industry, and I wasn't there long. But what it taught me was not to be emotional. Not to be emotional. It was either you hit your numbers or you don't. There's no emotion in it. There's no, I like you, I don't like you. In that environment, there was nepotism, but nepotism only got you so far because, once again, you had to hit your numbers. You had to be productive. You had to be
You had to
profitable.
produce, you had to execute.
And you can bring your family member in if you want, but they ain't gonna last long because the people who you don't see are looking at that productivity. And so if you bring in a weak person, and they don't perform, your head's gonna get chopped off and their head's gonna get chopped off, right? There's no room for excuses and BS.com and the dog ate my homework and I didn't feel like it today and I'm angry and I'm upset. No, damn that. The environment I was in, they wanted to see those KPIs and those statistics go up, right? And I was salaried, I wasn't hourly. So like, I remember getting there 30 minutes earlier for everyone else. I remember being there off an hour, and the manager and I would be going at it. The entire during the day, we could be mad as all get out with each other. None of the customers knew. We're smiling, shaking hands. Hey, so and so. Hey, so how you doing? You need help over there? You need help over there? And the entire time we both thinking, I can't stand you right now. Like, you're the worst. And if the lights were out and nobody was here, some bad things would happen up in this bank. Okay. Right.
You in the blind spot.
I was doing the assistant manager's job. I was doing my job as a licensed banker. Sometimes I was doing the teller's job.
Were you
And
understaffed in that environment? Were you guys understaffed?
like I said, if you didn't hit your numbers, they got you out of there straight up. That was the environment I came in. See, the bank industry is gone, and it was new because before, when you worked in the bank, you were pretty much an order taker. People came in, you serviced their accounts, maybe small talk, kept them happy. Every now and again, you might introduce some type of new program, this, that, and other. When I came into the banking industry was going through transition. And the people who were there before me, who had been there 10, 15, 20, 30 years, I was a different kind of animal to them. Cause they were like, chill. I was like, chill. Nah, I'm trying to win. I want to have the highest numbers. I want to get these bonuses. I want to get these incentives. I was doing a lot.
Do you think they were just lackadaisical in their approach to their workday because they were comfortable?
It was the culture. Like I said, when you were working at the bank before I came in, that's what they were. They were order takers. As they were. You made deposits. They made sure you're happy. You get a mortgage. Look, let me just okay. So let me put it in perspective. I found out there was an incentive if I brought in a certain amount of business. I think it was annuities, because that's when annuities were really becoming a big thing. They're all over the place now, but back in, particularly in the banking industry, right? They decided to start playing in the annuity market. And I'm sitting down at the desk and I'm just watching that 1/10 of the people who are coming through the door aren't my target client. Like, I knew that. And then I was also at one of the poorest branches in the nation. And like, I was off of Woodward and West Grand Boulevard when it was a ghost town, when there was nothing was going on over there. Okay.
Right.
There was little old ladies coming in, depositing their social security checks, and then leaving $10 in there and taking the rest of the money and do whatever they're going to do with it. Right? Man, look, I remember once again the branch manager and I, because I was an alien to her too. And I remember I told her, I said, I gotta get out of here. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm about to go out here and go get the money. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to go get the money. I'm not going to sit at this desk because we're going to get fired. We're not going to hit the goals. We're not going to hit the quotas with me sitting at this desk. And I remember even throughout the entire state of Michigan, everybody was hearing about this, and I refused. I would check in, of course, do everything you're supposed to do, help out, get everything set up, make sure certain accounts were, and then I would literally look at the branch manager, because I would pull up all the accounts with a certain dollar amount above that weren't spending the money, like they weren't spending it down. It was just there, just chilling, right? And a lot of them, of course, were business owners and corporate clients. And I would look up their address. I would call them up. Hey, my name is Juan Buford. I'm with so-and-so bank. Just want to let you know that we have an opportunity here for you to put some of this late money to work on your behalf, right? You're working hard for your money. It's time for your money to work hard for you. And I'd like to share with you how we can help you do that and do it in a way that's safe and protected, right? And so I would get in my car and I would go after him. I was driving all over Detroit metropolitan area. And think about it. You'd be surprised if your banker called you up right now. The person that typically works at the bank where you're at called you and said, I'm coming to you today, Adrian. You ain't got to come to me. I'm coming to you. That's what I was doing.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Well, I
So
think if you're a private bank client, like for Chase, they will, try to roll out the red carpet for you and call you and,
no,
do
but
all.
I was like, forget calling. I'm coming to you. I'm getting in my car.
Yeah, you're
And
about to come live and pull up. Like, Adrian, I'm
I'm
about to pull up
pulling
on
up.
you.
I'm
Yeah, I'm pulling up
pulling
on
up.
you.
I
Yeah.
was pulling up on people. Okay. I was even some of our commercial and business clients, I was pulling up on them to get the client, right? If I looked up and saw that somebody owned a hotel or owned something and I saw the different cash reserves and things going on, I was like, man, I gotta get more of their money up in here. I would literally, once again, look at the branch manager. At some point she realized what was going on. She's like, I know what he getting ready to go do. And I would pull up. And a week later, that client was depositing another 50, 100, 200, 300, $500,000 with us. That's what I was doing.
Like you said, going to get the money.
Yeah. So the other lesson I learned from that, because I think today people feel like I'm going to do as little as possible to earn as much as possible. That's the attitude that people had. My attitude was, whether you pay me what I deserve or not, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to develop the skills, the talents, the things I need so I can be more marketable and more valuable either here and you don't pay me, then I'm gonna go elsewhere. But I'm gonna maximize this opportunity, because where else am I gonna have access to all these resources? Where else am I gonna have access to all these people? And I'm not paying for any of it. I'm being paid to sit here. And so that's why being in that space, that period of time benefited me. But my attitude would have been the same if I was working at Walmart. My attitude would have been the same if I was working at CVS. My attitude would be the same if I was landscaping for somebody. I'd be, of course, focused on the work, but what I'd really be focused on is how things are getting done. Like, how's the business getting done, right? How are the agreements being set up? How are you securing the business? Man, I was constantly paying attention to things like that. And so when I transitioned from the banking industry to the investment advising industry, I had a mentor, but he really wasn't a mentor. He and I, the GA of the agency, the GA that eventually took over the agency I was working at. I mean, he's like, at the time, I think he had been like former baseball player, pretty well known, was a good baseball player, retired, very well connected, 60, maybe 60, 65, Italian guy, right? Yeah, his last name, yeah, he was Italian. There was nothing there. There was no connection there. But I still learned some things from him indirectly. The first thing I learned is how to lead. I learned how to lead. His whole attitude was a rising tide lifts all ships. And he spent most of his time investing in things and bringing in people to make the tide rise. In the beginning, I didn't like him too much. I didn't dislike him either, but I just wasn't feeling him because I didn't understand what he was doing. It's like, you're not talking to the agents. You're not, hand clapping, finger tap. You're not doing any of that. And, he would talk to you. He would engage with you at a distance. And if there was a personal conversation, it would happen. But I watched him really operate like a CEO, right? He spent most of his days trying to figure out how to make it where those who have a work ethic and a desire and a willingness to do what you're supposed to do would win. And I would give him credit for that. And I remember watching that, right? That was interesting to me. The other thing that was interesting to me that I learned by watching him from a distance was how he would put on these events. This is going to sound very familiar. He put on a monthly event where he would recognize the top earners, the people who were putting up the numbers, right? And then he would have 3 or 4 of the people who were winning, who were having success, either tell their story and then kind of give a training about how they were doing what they were doing. And of course, this is the investment advisor industry, so everybody wasn't giving away all their secret sauce, but they were giving away enough where you could understand what your modus operandi needed to be successful, right? He did that a lot. I thought that was fascinating. That was interesting. The one thing I would also say is he was not perfect, but he kept his word the majority of the time. He kept his word the majority of the time. The majority of the time, he showed up a certain type of way. When you needed him to show up, he showed up. If he said he wasn't going to pay you, or he was going to pay you, or he was going to incentivize you or not incentivize you, he didn't do it. Or he did it, right? His attitude was, I'm going to reciprocate. If you are a dishonest person, if you are a person that doesn't, if you don't keep your word to me, we're going to have a real distant relationship. If you do, we can have a really good relationship. I watch that, right? It's kind of like when I tell people sometimes, when you move, I move. Right? It's like, I'm going to play this game like chess. When you move, I move. Don't get out of pocket. Right? So for me, that was fascinating. That was interesting to see that. And once again, because I had a mindset to learn, I had a mindset to, I knew I was going to be there for a time. And for the time that I'm there, I'm going to get as much as I can out this situation. But also I learned, look, once again, emotionalism. I had a conversation with the gentleman we were talking about earlier before we kind of got into this conversation. And one of the things I told him is I said, look, man, you're getting too emotional about things that are happening in your business. You're getting too emotional when people do well. You're getting too emotional when people don't do well. You're getting emotional when you get a client. You're getting emotional when you don't get a client. You're getting emotional when someone does what they say they're going to do. You're getting emotional when people steal from you. You're just getting emotional about everything. You're over-indexed. I said the problem with a lot of our businesses in Black and brown communities is this over emotionalism, this over ego, this over this, that, and other. It's nauseating because you're spending so much time in the emotionalism of things. You're spending so much time in your feelings that you and that you are disregarding the bottom line. Like this guy, there was a tiny bit of nepotism in the office, but you know what? Even the people where you could see it was some nepotism going on, they still have better performed. I knew
Right.
they
Like you
got,
said, if
I
you don't
knew,
perform, you're getting your head chopped off. So
I
it
knew
doesn't really matter.
exactly. I knew they got the opportunity because of nepotism, but they couldn't keep it due to that
Right.
nepotism,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't about how much I like you. Are you performing?
Right.
Right. And
Executing. Yeah. Are you
so
performing?
often, and you know, it is what it is. So often in different organizations I've been a part of, and even organizations I'm a part of now, you if you want to dissuade performers, if you want to dissuade peak performers, show favor to people who aren't performing more than them. Your peak performers, your high achievers, the people who are really creating the thing, making it happen. You want to diminish stuff, disrespect them, right? Give people titles they haven't earned. Give people authority and agency. Well, they never have agency. They have a title, so they have a little bit of influence and a little bit of authority. But agency is something different because they ain't controlling nothing. But do that and see how quickly the culture in a marketplace or organization disintegrates. Do that. Right. He did not allow for that agency. That the other thing I learned too, as well, on the flip side, is that you can have all the talent and skill in the world. And this did not favor me because I was the only pepper in the room. If you catch my drift, I'm going to events and meetings, and I'm the only pepper in the room. It could be 5 people, it could be 100 people, or 200 people, right? But what I also learned is that you can, like I said, you can have the most talent, skills, et cetera, in the world, be the smartest person in the world, but people got to be able to work with you. And you got to learn how to work with other people, right? And being in an agency like that, like with some of those older heads, like I got to watch their habits. So even if I didn't like them, even if we didn't get along, there was like just cultural divides that probably just couldn't be crossed. I got to see them get up and come to work and get it in every day. And so I began to even if I did not like them, I respected them because I saw the work ethic. I saw how they did it, right? And I watched their habits, and I can make the correlation between their success and their habits. And once again, if you're an entrepreneur and you have a company environment like that, you don't understand the extent to which character plays a huge role in your whether you win or not. Sometimes it really isn't just simply about your ability to get the job done. And when I say character and integrity, oftentimes people want to add some type of moral intonations or connotations to it. I'm talking about, and not that those things are not important, but I'm talking about being integritous and to the point where it's like you're just consistently doing the work. You're consistently keeping your promises. You're consistently putting your best foot forward. You're consistently performing for the people who are paying you every single day, right? I saw that. And that was huge. There's a reason why every time I join an organization or a business, I don't always become the most elite person, but I win. I climb. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. You put me in any environment, I'm going to start paying attention to the behaviors. I'm going to start paying attention to how people get down, the language they use, how they move. And I'm going to eat the food and spit out the seed, and I'm going to start climbing. It's always been there. I pick up a lot of that from being in that kind of corporate environment, right? And then once again, in that agency, I'm seeing how the secretaries are being paid and the meetings that are happening. I'm seeing the discussions that are happening in middle management. I'm seeing the discussions that are transpired. Like I'm watching all these dynamics, and it's preparing me to become an entrepreneur or business owner, right? To think and manage in that way. Um, like I said, the fact that they didn't have all that emotionalism tied up in it. It was just like, look, this is what the expectations are, right? Um,
That's huge. That's
yeah,
huge. Yeah.
I remember there was a trainer. Lord, I'm trying to think of a way to describe this guy. He was 5'5". He had a Napoleon complex and he was unapologetic. And I want you to think about that 70-year-old, 80-year-old man with a potty mouth and don't care whether or not he hurts your feelings. Everybody has that uncle or that grandpa, somebody in the family is going to tell you what's up.
With no filter.
No filter. You don't, if you cry, then you're going to cry.
You're going to cry some more.
Yes. And I remember we had to meet with him a couple times a day. I think that went on for 2.5 months, maybe 3 months. If you said something stupid during the training,
He let you have it.
dumb ass. Don't say that. Don't do this. You effing dummy. You gotta, I remember his voice. You gotta qualify him. You gotta ask questions, find out about their family. Who's their niece? Who's their uncle? Here's their aunt. You don't know anybody. You're broke. You don't have any connections. Where are you gonna get the people? You gotta ask for referrals. What's wrong with you? Look, when you meet with someone, stop trying to sell them and figure out how to develop a rapport with them so they like you. Because you're not nobody important to be liked. You better go.
I mean, honestly, it
look,
is very raw and uncut, but those are jewels of true
he
knowledge.
was dropping jewels all the
Yes,
time. He was
that's a
like,
true jewel. It's the
he,
truth. I
he's like,
agree wholeheartedly with them.
he's like, don't believe him. She don't love him. That wife don't love the husband. That husband don't love the wife. You better get that policy in there because when the man die, he ain't set up nothing else for her. And then she gonna take his money and spend it. You better set up the policy like this with a second to die and and make sure the children are included in the estate plan because you know the wife gonna have another man within a couple 3 months spending up his money. You better put these things in place for the children. I mean, he would just be out of, but it was real life. He was telling the truth.
Dropping jewels.
He was dropping jewels. It's like, you big dummy, you're gonna take the money and spend it on this, that, and other when you need to invest in this, that, and the other. You coming to work looking like spam, you better put on a suit and you're smoking, got cigarette burns in your pants. What the fuck are you doing? Like,
The trainings sound cool. I wish we could get him to do a training for us now.
remember some of the stuff he would
Invite him to our
say.
next boot camp.
He would say, and so people are funny because they think I'm hard now.
But you're not. You're tactful and you're
Yeah,
very tactful.
look,
You're very diplomatic. You are.
but look, in the environment I came up in, it was like, damn that you're gonna get it the way you need to hear it. If you don't let people talk to me nicely. And he was like, damn, now I'm gonna tell you what you need to know. Because talking to you nicely and being fluffy and coquettish, his attitude was it's gonna take me too long to get out what I need to get out. And we don't have a lot of time together because he was producing too. He was earning money too. So It wasn't like, he wanted to be out in the field doing the work. He was like, well, if I gotta take time on my schedule to F around with you all, this how you gonna this how you gonna get it. And I just remember
playing with you bums.
Basically, that's how we felt.
I mean, look at where it brought you though. Look at how it helped you to grow. And like the non-emotional part, I think that's so important. That is like one of the building blocks to success is not having any emotion. Like you said, it's not an emotional thing. You can't let your emotions dictate your moves. You have to feel emotional. You need to just step back and be like, okay, let me get a minute to get myself together so I don't do something emotional, or so I don't say something emotional, so I don't react with emotion and I react with level-headedness and objectivity
Hmm?
and facts.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest mistakes I've made as an entrepreneur and now operating more as a business owner, is they're all were tied to emotions. I resigned from that agency. I mean, part of it is I felt like I needed another space to grow. I needed the freedom to really move the way I wanted to move, but also it was emotional in the sense that I had grown tired of some of the disrespectful moments. And I remember once again the attorney told me that I know said you should have stayed there. And he's right. I should have stayed there and dealt with it a little bit longer because there were still some things I needed to learn.
You
But
shared that
I
story with us. Yep.
but I am grateful for the time that I had there because once again, it ingrained certain things. Like when I man, there was an organization. I shouldn't say there's an organization, but there was a subsect, there was a group in the organization. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a convention. It was an after party at a convention. And one of the leaders in this group walked up to me and he says, Juwan, do you like me? I just looked at him. You know, I
Like, is
got
that a question?
I got a chill Jack and Coke in one hand. I'm, there's a girl eyeballing. I'm eyeballing her. I'm not involved in anyone. And I'm just trying to make connections. I'm trying to get game from people. I'm trying to have a good time while I'm there. And the only thing on this guy's mind to talk to me about was whether or not I like him. So, he was suspect from day one. For
I
moving on,
swear to you,
you were
I was gonna ask. I was trying to think of a way to like tactfully say, like, was this person an alternative lifestyler? Like, what was?
no, well, he is, but he ain't. He ain't putting it out like, but he might as well be.
I mean, because that's what
Because
it's giving that
that's
hint.
yeah,
It's like a
yeah,
very
yeah.
bizarre
I'm
question.
like we're here to share game, talk to them about how we getting this money, how we're building teams, how we're marketing more effectively, how we're game planning, how success. And the only thing you can think about is to walk up to me. And then I'm looking at the people around him, they all became suspect for me moving forward. I was just like, you know
I mean,
what?
yeah, it's a bizarre question, and
Yeah.
it throw me off.
And it was one of those things where I was like, this is the exact opposite of the culture that I've come from. Because in the culture I came from, once again, that corporate environment,
Mhm.
that's never the first question I ask when I'm dealing with people. Like
So why
whether I like you or not doesn't even
it's irrelevant.
it doesn't even register to me. The first question I'm asking myself when I meet someone is, are they capable? Are they valuable? Are they able to get things done? Um, can I count on them? Integrity in terms of integrity, their movements, their actions, their behaviors, their intent, all that fun stuff. These are the things I'm thinking about. Um, do you have alligator skin? Have you been through enough um, conflict, turmoil, challenges where if when BS.com inevitably happens, because it will, do you have the wherewithal to push through it and perform anyway? Right? Are you mentally strong? Or every time something happens, you got to go smoke some weed, or you got to take a mental break, or get bent. You know what I mean? Like those are all the things that are going through my mind when I first meet someone. Even when it's casually, I'm looking for all those signs. I'm watching all that different stuff because at some point we may collaborate together, we may partner together. I may end up working for you, you may end up working for me, right? We may end some type of contractual agreement, whatever the case may be. When I'm networking, I may end up referring people to you. You may end up referring people to me. Who are you going to be referring to me? Are you going to be able to deal with people I refer to you? Those are all the very last thing on my mind is, do I like you? Or do you have a lifestyle that, you have some type of orientation? I give a rat's ass. It's like, obviously, let's not be on some BS. We all have our preferences for the type of people we want around us. But as an entrepreneur, even most of my preferences go out the window. It's like, can you do the work? And can you get excited and passionate about the work? Can you be committed to the work? Can you be committed to the mission? That, so being in those environments is what helped create that, right? Um, and so, yeah, if I think about the great, that's why I tell people having a job is not a bad thing if you have the right mindset while you're in that job,
Right.
right? If you understand what it can be good for, right? If I fell on my knuckles tomorrow, I don't care. I would call up a company. Do you need somebody to come clean your bathrooms? I don't care. I got children to feed. I can give a rat's ass. Now, obviously, I wouldn't do that. I have a lot of other tools and ways in which to generate income. I have salesmanship experience, all this other stuff. I could just basically call up a couple companies and get moving on some stuff, right? If I had to do that. But you
But
get
the
the
point
point.
is that you'll thug it out and make it happen by any means necessary.
That ain't means necessary.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And while I'm doing it, I'm gonna be picking up cues. I'm gonna be learning. I'm either gonna be learning what to do, or I'm gonna be learning what not to do. But I'm
And
gonna be learning.
preparing for the next move after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's how corporate America helped me, particularly the corporate America that I came into.
Mm-hmm.
I know corporate America is different today. Um, and the dynamic in terms of expectations from people are different today. But if you have an entrepreneurial mindset, it's all the same, as far as I'm concerned. It's all the same. Yeah, it's all the same. And that's where I think.
Stories that you've shared with us, I've learned a lot, especially in regard to like you saying that, because you shared that with us about the attorney that you knew that was kind of like a mentor to you. And when you were like, hey, I'm about to leave here and I'm going to pivot. And he was like, no, you need to stay there
Mhm.
because that's the best environment for you to learn in, where it is an environment where you're facing opposition and where you are different. And like you said, you're the only pepper in the room and you are somebody who they're not really trying to feed you, but you're learning and growing anyway.
Yeah.
And that really stuck out to me because I've never had that experience. I've never worked in corporate America. I've never worked in the banking industry. Um, and I know you and several other people, Miss Wells and then Miss Cotton, have all worked in corporate America. And just from having conversations with you guys, I learn a lot from it because I can see where you guys have several skills that work on daily, being
Mhm.
tactful, being diplomatic, and
Mhm.
like you said, non-emotional, like letting emotion play no part in any decisions that you're making as far as it pertains to business. Because I think that's super important. And people who've had that experience in corporate America, definitely the ones who are in our circle at least have mastered those skills
Yeah.
for sure.
The other thing you just mentioned that caught my attention too, a willingness to go into spaces or go into environments even when it's uncomfortable, right? Um, that was a huge benefit, right? Knowing that I'm going to go into this space and there will be no one to edify me, there will be no one to celebrate me. They don't care about my unique characteristics, attributes, et cetera, et cetera. Can you give this presentation? Can you communicate this value prop? Can you help someone matriculate through this process? So whether I was training, whether I was being trained, whether I was selling, whether I was coaching, um, I had to be willing to operate in environments that I knew. Even a lot of times the environments were hostile, right? I'm sitting down in front of people who have a lot of capital available to them, and the only thing they can see is my complexion. I'm more articulate than you are. I work harder than you are. I probably live right, a better life and morally and all this fun stuff than you do. But the only thing you can see is my complexion. And I still had to go in there and part that person with their money. Or I still had to go in there and educate them and provide them with resources and tools to achieve whatever their goal is, despite the fact that, you know what I mean? Like that type of situation hardens you in such a way, right? That in my mind is extremely beneficial. Because there's very little I won't try. There's very little I won't do. I'm willing to bet on myself because I've been in environments where, forget betting on me, they didn't want me to succeed. So now, all my inhibitions are tactical now. If I have an inhibition or a lack of willingness to do something, 9 times out of 10, it's not fear that is creating that inhibition. It's like I looked at the chessboard and I don't see this as a winning move. Like there's a better alternative over here. I'm not going to take this route. This route makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like it's going to get me to my goal or
Help you to avoid BS.com or something like that.
or the process of doing the thing is going to make me stronger. Right? That's the other thing. People want to get to the bag, but they don't want to become the person you need to become to be worthy of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I hate to use this as an example, but it's so salient and it's just low-hanging fruit. You take the athlete who turns 18, 19, 20, gets a $20 million bag, $10 million bag, doesn't make it for whatever reasons, character issues, too much off-court issues, too many baby mamas, distractions, get into a car accident, get caught up in the wrong place, the wrong time, wrong individual, reputation, brand toe up. It can all go down. Get injured.
Not having the right team in place
It can
to help
get injured.
manage your success correctly.
You get injured. 5, 10 years later, that sometimes it only take that long, broke on their knuckles. That because managing money and managing business and managing relationships and communicating value props and all these things that we talk about, all these things are skilled trades.
Certain skill sets are required. Absolutely.
Your skilled trade of dribbling the ball is why somebody's willing to pay you. But that does not mean you understand money. Does not mean you understand business. Does not mean you understand how to move in this world in such a way where you grow things. Right? Entrepreneurs will oftentimes come up on a bag and lose it because they didn't become the person that was required to number one, get the bag correctly in the first. That's why when I see people taking shortcuts, I'm like, right? And when I see entrepreneurs sometimes get the bag fast, like I'm not a hater, congratulations. But I also know when I see that happen, there's a high percentage of people who will lose it. Because
failure is very probable because they don't have the proper skill set.
They don't have the development the process wasn't there in place. And right?
We've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah. I mean, if you really pay attention to what I'm doing with our organization, all I'm doing is duplicating the agency system.
A lot of the stuff that we're doing in our organization are part of the book of the month, like Building an Empire, all these different books. I see it clearly. Yep. And now that I've started doing some of the things that like you and Mr. Peden have like encouraged everyone in the group to do, like don't just zoom through a book, okay? Like read the book, listen to chapters over again, take notes, review your notes, okay? Those are very, very important parts because like you said, you have to have time to let things cook sometimes. You can't just always be moving 100 miles an hour because you're going to crash. Like you have to stop and basically kind of smell the roses sometimes. And a lot of the things that are talked about in the books of the month and just even at our trainings, our accountability calls are all things that I'm like, okay, like you can clearly see it being implemented and executed, not just
Mhm.
implemented, but executed in our trainings and our groups. And it definitely makes a difference, in my opinion. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the thing that I appreciate most about being in corporate America, and look, I paint a really rosy picture here. It was crappy. It was shitty. It was conflicts and oh,
Oh,
can
for
I
sure.
remember how many? I
It
cannot
seems like
remember.
it was like a really hostile environment sometimes, the things that you
Yeah.
were describing that you were dealing
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
especially during that time period, because now things are a little bit different and
Hmm.
there's more rules in place that preclude people from acting a certain way and doing things a certain way. There's more consequences. But I'm sure like when you first came into it, it was, I'm quite sure, very challenging to be
No,
a
there was,
environment.
it was like HR. No, we about to go in this parking lot and settle this. That's how we about to make this.
In the blind spot in the bathroom
That's how we
for
gonna
your
make this
blanket
work.
party.
There's a parking lot. It's 6, 7 o'clock. There's me. There's you. We about to make this happen. This is how we gonna settle this.
In these size 7 Nikes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
So I'm gonna go put on my Timberlands. You
Right,
go. You
exactly.
yeah. You can go put on your loafers, and
Some street justice.
we about to see what's gonna happen here.
See how
You
we
know,
do
but
things
and
on Fort
but
Waterman,
yeah.
Southwest Detroit style.
So I don't. So I don't want to
Circa
paint this
1998,
rosy.
right?
Yeah, I don't want to paint this rosy picture, but I think that for me, being in those ecosystems taught me how to build ecosystems.
Absolutely.
Right? Everything that I'm doing is designed irrespective to person. Is designed to make the environment healthy. So if you want to succeed, you can, regardless of what bucket you're coming out of. If you want it, the resources, the tools, you can count on certain things to happen for you, right? That ultimately there's a consistency across everything we're doing, right? And if you want it, you can get it, right? Being in corporate America and the environments I was in gave me a multitude of frameworks to look at the things I'm doing now to create ecosystem. Um, yeah, yeah, and it's a bit of a challenge. Like you said, a lot of people don't understand what's going on around them. They don't get it, right? They in their feelings, they're concerned about the interpersonal relationships, all the emotionalism and all this other BS, and it just
They don't have the benefit of your experience in those environments.
yeah,
And I think, having that experience in corporate America is definitely priceless. Or even if you've ever just been in an environment where you um, have had to face adversity, whatever it was.
yeah,
Um, I think adversity and hardship builds character. You're able to, like you said, take emotion out of things, not take things personal. And you know that really all that matters is execution and results
yeah,
when you've worked in those kind of environments. So
yeah, yeah.
it's about performance, it's about execution, and it's about results. Nothing
It
more.
all it also gives you a chance to see the chessboard, right?
Absolutely.
That's the other thing. Like a lot of people out here playing checkers, they're only thinking one or two, three moves ahead.
Hmm.
Whereas when you come from highly competitive corporate environments like the one I was in, it's like, bro or sis, I see you. Not today, but I see you 3, 4 moves ahead. Like I see where this behavior is going to take you, right? Um, I see what the end result's going to be. I see you either it's going to take you longer to hit this goal, or you can get there shorter. Like you just see the chessboard differently when you are in those kind of environments. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that we deal with in the ecosystems that we enter into, they're not looking at the entire chessboard. Like, anyway, this was useful. This was a different type of conversation. I was admittedly, when you brought it up, I was like, corporate America, man, I ain't trying to revisit that BS.com. The reason why I left that behind.
I
But
was excited about it because, like I said, I don't have that benefit of that type of experience, and I know several people who I know, like, and trust, and consider very, very successful. I'm like, they have that experience, and I feel like for those of us who don't, myself, I don't have it. I've never worked in corporate America. I feel like it's very useful information because you can see how you develop the skill set. You have sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears, all these experiences, even with the trainer, with the
mhm,
Ron Uncut, that was amazing. I'm sure some people were like, oh my God, I can't believe he's talking to us like this. But look at everything you learned and gained from it. Like, I mean, it's a game changer to have somebody like that, like telling you, like, absolutely not. That sounds stupid. Even though it's blunt and it's, not, PC, sometimes that's what you need. And if you've grown up in an environment like that, like that's how my grandmother was. She would say what was on her mind. And if you liked it, then whatever. If you didn't, then that was your problem, you know.
yeah.
So, she told my my brother's wife, she was his girlfriend at the time. One time we were all sitting at a table and she was like, if you believe that, you're dumber than you look, like in front of everybody at a table. So this is the type of like, and honestly, like I didn't even say nothing. I just kept eating my food. But I could tell that my my brother's girlfriend at the time, eventually became his wife, was not used to um somebody with a heavy accent talking blunt. Like when I mean blunt, I mean blunt. She wasn't used to it. But we grew up that way. So it was like, oh, well, pass the salt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, what I would say, whether I like that guy or not, then it does not matter. He was one of the most important mentors in my life.
You learned a
That
lot,
the
leveled up.
stuff, the stuff I learned in the 3 months of hell with him, I can point to at different times in all the different entrepreneur endeavors I've been in that it continues to still serve me today. Um, and quite frankly, it's going to sound crazy, but I wish for the entrepreneurs that we partner with, that we serve, that we help, that we work with, I would wish they would all go through that experience because it preps, it hardens you, it helps you um, identify the bottom line and get to it in a way that, yeah, like some of the
Trainings
comments.
are important. Trainings are important.
Mhm,
Investing in yourself,
mhm,
treating yourself, investing in yourself is very important. And having that
mhm,
kind of a training would definitely be a game changer, just like our boot camp that we just did.
mhm,
I feel like it was extremely beneficial. Um, everybody who came, you, Miss Wells, Rob, Lisa, everybody like poured into it. John, everybody poured into us. And, these are people who are highly successful, giving you the game. I think trainings are a must. You have to invest in yourself if you want
yeah.
to level up and grow. It's necessary. So
I'm curious to know what people's biggest take back is now that we are how many weeks removed? I feel like,
two, I think
yeah, we're
their
about,
biggest take back from the boot camp.
yeah, I am curious to know what,
Let's talk about it on our accountability call on Monday. Let's ask.
yeah,
I
we
could
should.
tell you, yeah, I could tell you right now what mine is everybody who's been in the game, how they did the 90-day runs and how each one was different and how each one molded and shaped them and how they learned from those experiences and doing it and like being like, hey, look, I'm stagnant. I want to level up. And I'm going to, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
Executing those 90-day runs, I feel like that was like really kind of like I had an epiphany when I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm definitely, because I whenever you were like asking people like, oh, where are you at? This person's a manager, this person's blah 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 blah. And I was kind of like, oh yeah, well, I don't really feel like I've been doing much. And I was like, yeah, well, I feel like I'm not doing much because I'm used to a faster pace with some of the other businesses I'm in. And for this
Mhm.
business, that's what I need to feel like I'm really doing something. It's like, yeah, you're doing three ways, you're presenting, you're doing this, you're getting people here and there, but you're not really um high speed, moving at like the momentum that I'm used to, like in
Mhm.
real estate, my momentum is there. Contracting, the momentum is there. The momentum is not there, and I
It's there, but it's not as a it's not. Think about it like this. I'll use this. There are trees when you plant them in the ground, where the first 6 months, year, 2 years, most of the growth is taking place underground.
right.
And it may sprout, you may see it doing its thing above ground, but it looks, you look at those plants, you look at the weeds, them weeds pop up and, go 2 feet high. And like, sometimes for like 2 days, how fast weeds grow, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's real easy to pull up a weed. They grow up fast.
Hmm.
Um, but no, there was no real momentum involved in their growth, right? You're the opposite. You are growing. You have momentum. You're you're creating more skill stacks. You're creating more wisdom stacks. You're creating more talent stacks. You're creating more knowledge stacks. You are growing a lot faster than you think you are. It's just not readily apparent as quickly as you think you're getting. And
Right.
that is the thing about entrepreneurship that can sometimes mess you up, right? Particularly in this type of industry we're talking about now. Which is why every time I hear you say I don't have momentum, I'm like, no, you have momentum. You're not getting the accoutrements and the award as quickly as you like, but you
Yeah.
are developing momentum.
I just need to, like I said, do that 90-day run. And
Yeah.
then most everybody said, like, okay, once they did it, basically their everything just kind of started to blossom from there, because
Mhm.
people were calling them back, just like you said many, many times. Most of
Mhm.
the people who I sign up are people who they're calling me out the blue, like, oh, hey, Juwan, you still doing that one thing? Because life will life, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, he does that one thing. I need him. Um, so yeah, I mean, any business is going to take time to grow and,
Mhm.
nurture and everything like that. Even with the ones that I mentioned,
Yeah.
yeah, I have momentum, but I've been working at them for several years, more than several years with the contracting. And so it has kind of grown organically. And that's how your business is growing too, is like organically. Like, people are reaching out to you, you're getting referrals, a lot of people and you continue to meet people. So I agree.
Think about the flip side. To you, and if I didn't have this mindset, even to me, what's going on in terms of my dealings in real estate,
Hmm.
right? It's just flip it. As much effort and as smart as I am, and I know I go the extra mile because I watch other real estate agents and I watch other people in the industry. I know I'm doing more than what other people are doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
There's people who aren't doing nada, like
yeah,
zip,
yeah,
zilch.
and I and I'm not getting the immediate results, but I'm getting results.
Yes,
But I know if I keep doing what I've been doing, this is going to snowball.
absolutely.
And I know I'm going to look up and then I have a different issue, right? If I'm in a situation where I could potentially close 2 to 3 deals a month, maybe 4 deals a month, maybe 5 deals a month, then I got a different issue.
Yeah.
'Cause then I have to ask myself, okay, now how am I going to calibrate things to keep the other businesses going when this is doing its thing? But that's also a very good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And another topic for our podcast.
it is. All right. I know you look, it's a holiday. I know you
Yes.
probably I know
Yes.
you
I
and
was
your
glad
family
we
are
could
about to
still
get
do
in.
it. Yeah, I was glad
Yeah.
we could still do it 'cause I had already told them ahead of time, like, I do have a podcast with Mr. Buford, so, I'm planning on doing it unless he's got, like, I know you've got stuff going on with,
Where are you about to go? Because you kind
Oh, I
of
just put this on for the podcast. I'm gonna throw on my
I'm
regular
okay.
get up, my yoga pants and my thug shirts and
I
hit it,
was like, where's the hoodie at?
right, exactly. And the bandana.
That's
Looking
funny.
like
I love
looking
it.
like I'm about to go work on a job site,
I was like, she about to go meet with somebody important. So they about to cut her $200,000 check. Look at Ponce go.
It's coming. It's coming, baby. Headed to a closing for $1 million transaction. It's coming.
It is. It is. We're gonna make it happen.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you enjoy your 4th. We will as well, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yep. No doubt.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye.